Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Tremont.
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Item 4, resolution number 20-75. Does anybody have it open?
I can't get my email open even, so I got nothing in front of me.
Matt, did you bring it down for signature, the resolution? For the special election?
I apologize, but I had to reboot the computer.
I do not have it here with me.
I just thought he could read from that, but
You'll bear with me.
Yeah, I'm having the same issue. I'm starting to get some movement now.
do you want me to read it, Mayor? I have it.
If you have it, if you would, I would be much obliged to you.
Sure. Resolution number 20-75. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, calling a primary election and a special election as needed for the purpose of electing the City Council member for District 1, providing for the qualifying period and election dates, authorizing the City Clerk to proceed with all election arrangements, and providing an effective date.
Motion to approve ordinance number 20-75.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item's open on the floor for discussion. Council, questions or comments? Alan, you want to tell us when exactly we are planning on doing this and the salient details, or would you like the clerk to do that for you?
I would love the clerk to do that for me.
So qualifying period will be February 1st through the 5th, noon on Monday through noon on Friday, with the election date April 13th, and any runoff after that would be June 22nd.
February 1st through the 5th qualifying?
Correct.
That's qualifying week. And anybody who's interested in running, they come to see you in the clerk's office, or they can call you,
Yes.
or they can email
Email
you.
would probably be best because I'll be on vacation
Hey,
the next week.
Gee, how did that happen? That's convenient.
But yes.
So those are the salient details and dates. Council, do you have any questions or comments? There being none, would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Final comments or questions? Call the roll.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0. Council seat for District 1 is now open and a special election has been called for. Item 5, interviews and selection for RFP 21-05, executive search firm for city manager recruitment. We were talking the 3 that we selected: Colin Bainsiger and Associates, Baker Tilly, and Mercer Group. Alan, you want to outline how we are proceeding?
Sure,
for the
well,
evening?
have the purchasing manager come up and have us coordinate us through this process, please.
What a city manager! I tell you, he's learned the art of delegation.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and I would like to call to order the evaluation committee meeting for RFP number 21-05 for executive search services. We're in City Council chambers, Port Orange. I'm Jim Tillman, the purchasing manager and evaluation committee facilitator. And so at this time, I'd just like to read a summary of the proposals. On December 10th, the city received 6 proposals for executive search services. After review of the proposals, City Council deliberated and approved a short list of proposers on December 15th to provide oral presentations to the evaluation committee. And the 3 shortlisted firms are Baker Tilly, Colin Bainsinger and Associates, and the Mercer Group. And so in just a few moments, hopefully, if the first presenter is not present here, so hopefully...
He's on Zoom.
On Zoom,
Yes.
okay. So, hello. With that, are you prepared, Colin, there to go ahead? Basically, the sessions are 25 minutes. We'll allow about 15 minutes for a presentation, about 10 minutes for questions and answers, and we'll be soft on that. If you see me waving my hand, that means we're running out of time, just a little cue there. So,
Okay.
so anyway, with that, any questions before we get started?
Begin the presentation.
Okay. Colin, it's all yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here, kind of, sort of, maybe,
Right?
at least by Zoom. I want to thank you, first of all, for selecting us as one of your 3 finalists. As you know, I guess my proposal, I live in Daytona Beach Shores, so I'm just around the corner. It's an awful lot of my shopping and other things in Port Orange. So, you know, many of the clients I have are around the state or around the country, and you know, it's kind of abstract. This one's personal to me. I want to get it right because you're a friend and a neighbor. So, anyway, we would love to be your search consultant. What we offer is a problem-free search. We've been doing this now almost 23 years, and over that time, we've learned from other mistakes of our competitors, as well as maybe 1 or 2 of our own, unfortunately. And at this point, we basically have refined the process to the point where we don't make mistakes. So that's the first thing. We offer a problem-free search. The second thing is we have an extraordinary ability to find the right candidate for each of our clients. A couple of examples. We placed Brian Hill in James City County, Virginia. He's now the county manager of Fairfax County, Virginia. For about 2 million population. TC Broadnax we put in Tacoma. He went on to become, he's currently the city manager in Dallas, Texas. Those are 2 people that were assistants when we found them. We offer a turnkey search, meaning that basically we're going to do all the work. The only thing we need your help with is, or the staff's help with, is doing hotel reservations and final arrangements when you actually do the interviews. And the other thing is we do extremely well with both candidates and elected officials. I'll give you my cell phone number. You should feel free to call at any time. You know, I work, 300 roughly, 24/7, 300, 304. I like to take Sundays off. That's the only thing, if that's at all possible. Our focus is on hiring, helping cities and counties hire top-level managers. We've been extremely successful. In the last 20 or so years, we've done a little over 68% of the city and county manager searches in Florida where a firm's been hired to find the manager. And that's based on our reputation as much as anything else. And if you think about it, 68% is a little more than twice as many searches as all the other firms combined. Our orientation is towards the client. We live on our reputation, so it's important to us that we satisfy you and satisfy your needs. We're responsive. You'll have my cell phone number, as I indicated. We have a tailored approach. We'll give you we have a standard methodology, obviously. But if you want to deviate from it to some degree, we're eager to work with you, because what we really want to do is give you the candidates you need and deserve, as well as all the information you need about their backgrounds and everything else, so that you can do a good assessment. Now, when I say candidates, that's one thing I think that separates us. When we present our candidates, we want to give you 5 to 10 candidates, each one of which would do a great job as your city manager. And the only place you should have difficulty during our search process is choosing from among all the great candidates, trying to figure out who's the best fit for Port Orange. Local government is an avocation for us as well as a profession. So if you have any questions about where you might need some information on some issue unrelated to executive session, feel free to give me a call. We are reliable. We've never missed a project milestone. And we've never asked for more than the quoted price. So our search will be on time and on schedule. We're thorough with our background checks. I don't know if you have the article in front of you from the Fernandina Beach Observer, but it was written by the city manager we placed there. He said that in that article, the vetting process employed by Colin Benziger and Associates following my application of the city of Fernandina Beach was the most thorough review of my career, credentials, and references that I've ever experienced. We don't just talk about going checking references and other materials, we do it. The first step in any recruitment process is to gather information from you. We need to meet with you, we need to talk with you, we need to get to know you as people. We like to watch the city council meetings. So we have a feel for who you are. The very best candidates are going to want to know not just about the city, but they're going to want to know about the people they work for. And so I need to know you on a bit of a personal level, so that I can talk about you. I also need to get your input on what we're looking for, what the issues are that you want the manager to address. Once we've got that information, we'll put together a recruitment profile, and I think that, there was one copy in our appendices. And it's a pretty complete document. The goal is to give the potential candidates all the information that they could possibly need to make an informed decision about whether or not Port Orange is the right opportunity for them. So it's longer, and some people may think it's too long. But the way we have it set up, they can skip over the sections they're not interested in. But it does give them everything they need to know so that they can make a judgment about whether they want to work in Port Orange, or whether they want to live in Port Orange, or they want to play in Port Orange, et cetera, et cetera. We'll put that in the marketplace. We normally have it out there for 3 to 4 weeks. At the same time, we're networking, we're calling people, we're talking to people. Now, Port Orange, with its current population of over 60,000, you're in a relatively select group of cities. There's only about 400 cities in the country that have a city manager form of government that have populations over 50,000. So, the people that are qualified for your position are relatively few. It makes it a little easier on the one hand to identify the right people. Makes it a little harder because there's fewer right people to identify. So we'll go out there and we'll find them. We use advertising, as I said. We use networking. We know a lot of people in the industry. And we do have an email list of almost 14,000 people that are interested in local government, mostly in Florida and elsewhere in the United States. We'll send that to people, and our goal is to create a buzz. So we have people talking about it, and when they get the email, they can forward it to friends. Maybe the manager is getting it in California, but he knows a manager in Idaho that grew up in Port Orange and might forward it to that manager, might not see it otherwise. And so if we can get this email going, the advertising, the conversations, the networking, we'll create a buzz and we'll get great candidates. After the period closes, I'll take a look at each of the candidates. Now this is important too, because I'm going to be your project manager. I've done this for the last 23 years. I'm not new to it. Obviously, I built the firm from scratch, and so I'm fairly good at it. I like to think there's nothing I haven't seen, but then again, every time I do a search, it seems like there's something unique. So, but once the applications come in, I'm going to interview them. I'm going to give them what I call a column test, and that's just a series of questions to determine if they are really good managers. Which, of course, I'm going to pick the top 10 to 12 to talk to. I'll give them the test, and if they pass, I'll turn them over to my staff to do background checks and research on them. That involves checking criminal records, civil records, verifying education, verifying employment for the last 15 years, checking references. We normally ask candidates for about 20 references, and that includes all of their current council people, the city attorney, the external auditor, the director of the Chamber of Commerce, some newspaper reporters, some peers, some subordinates, some community activists, and we try to find some people that are not on their list. When we're done, we'll typically reach 8 to 12 people. We'll write up each reference, and it's typically about a page long, so you're not going to get a summary that says everybody says Joe's great. You're going to actually be able to read what each reference has to say about that candidate. We're going to also do internet searches and see if there's anything out there we need to know about. The good, the bad, the ugly, we'll find it. And assuming the candidates turn out to be great candidates and pass the Collin test, then I'm going to recommend probably 8, maybe 10 to you to consider as your city manager. Now, at this point, you're going to get their resume, their cover letter, a candidate introduction document that they prepare that answers some questions that we give them, the background checks, the reference checks, and the internet. And with that document, with that material, you can go through it, and you can pick the candidates that you think are the best candidates. As I said, I'm going to probably forward materials on 8 or 10. And the key there is, you know Port Orange better than I ever will. Living next door, of course, I know something about it. But you'll pick out people perhaps that I might miss because you may see something that really appeals to you, an issue that I'm not aware of that some candidate has addressed. So we'd like you to be involved and pick out the top 5 candidates. Once that is done, then we bring the candidates in for interviews. We like to do one-on-one interviews with each of the council members and each of the candidates so that you have an opportunity to test the chemistry. The bottom line, I feel, is that a manager succeeds or fails if he or she gets along well, has good chemistry with each of the elected officials. And the best managers, when the elected officials change, they know how to maintain good chemistry with the new elected officials. So those one-on-one interviews we feel are critical. We also like to have you see the candidates in a reception. Now with COVID, that may or may not be possible by the time we actually get to that point. Hopefully it will be. We've done community forums on Zoom in those cases where we can't actually have a reception. And then we like to have you interview them in a council meeting setting. So when you're done, you've seen them in a reception ideally, because the manager is going to represent your city. You've seen them one-on-one, you've tested the chemistry, and you've seen them in a council meeting. We also like to have the staff spend a little time with the candidates so that they can give you an evaluation. And then you put it all together, and 2 days later we'll sit down, we'll discuss it, and you'll take a vote and select the city manager. And at that point, we will help negotiate a contract. Usually we work with one of the council members and the city attorney. And it's a done deal. The process, as I said, it takes about 90 days. We'll give you a schedule to start with. And as I said, we've never missed a milestone, so you can take that schedule to the bank. Of course, there's times when things come up and the city may need to change the schedule, and that's fine with us. But we like to commit to us being on time. Our fee's $26,500. I'm your project manager. I'm excited about working with you. And my goal is to do something like we did with St. Johns County a number of years ago, where they passed a resolution where they said, whereas CB&A staff worked diligently to find and produce excellent candidates and then provided the county commission with comprehensive materials concerning the candidate's aptitude, experience, background, complete thorough interviews, references, extensive checks of criminal, civil, and financial history, verification of employment, education, and exhaustive reviews of internet and newspaper archives of these candidates, whereas CB&A's process was completely open, fair, and unbiased. It was extremely well received by the county commission, county staff, the press, and the public. They wanted to express their gratitude. That's our goal. We promise to give you 125% effort, not a mere 110% as the other firms will likely promise. And we want to be your consultant. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
I think Colin was watching his timer pretty closely,
Yes,
wasn't he,
he
Jim?
was.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Why don't we start with Councilman Tremont?
I don't really have any questions. I was kind of looking for someone that was going to give me 150%, but, you know, I'll take...
For you, I'll make it 150.
All right. I might have a question after, I might get a thought after I hear a couple of the others, but at this point, you know, I was going to ask you what you knew about Port Orange. I was going to ask you what our population was, just a couple facts, but you kind of mentioned that throughout. Typically, when you bring a list of managers for selection, are you filling that mostly with current managers? Are you filling it with assistant city managers? What's your typical ratio when you present those?
I would say it's a mix of both. It tends to be people that have been city managers predominantly. I think that, you know, the best way to have a successful outcome is to have somebody who's already proven they can do the job. And an assistant city manager it's always a little bit more risky than hiring somebody that has already done the job. You know, Port Orange being the size it is, and its location, its reputation, I think we'll get an outstanding group of very talented, experienced city managers. And that's not to say that we won't bring in an assistant or two out of the 8 that we present. We like to give young and up-and-comers a chance, an opportunity. And you may, you know, somebody who's never been a manager may not have encountered some of the problems that other managers have encountered and tried to solve, and they may say, well, I tried that back in Houston and it didn't work, so I'm not going to do it again. Somebody who's never tried it might just try it in Port Orange and find it succeeds. So, you know, there's advantages to experienced managers and advantages to assistants that are ready to take the next step.
Yeah, but I'm okay with seeing assistant managers on there because I like the point that you just made, the energy, the enthusiasm of someone coming in with something to prove, an axe to grind. You know, I prefer seeing a lot of those, frankly, as opposed to just somebody who's looking to get out of a rut where they're at and bring in a bag of tricks and move into the next city and automatically thinks that what they worked at one place is automatically going to work somewhere else. So I kind of like a variety to choose from in that regard. But I appreciated the presentation. I don't really have any other questions. I was curious as to the nature of the makeup of your list, and I might have a question to feed off one of the others at this point. But I'm good right now.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
How you doing, sir? Appreciate you being here and you know, being interested in this and looking at it. The submittal that you turned in, certainly an impressive report, and you know, some of it was samples, but you know, I took the gist of it that, you know, you guys do a very thorough and quite exhaustive search, it looks like, and so, you know, you being local and having that, you know, we have that capability to reach out and get a hold of you, and you're close by. You know, that's another good thing to have in our pocket. But you know, we have 3 of these to consider tonight, and we're grading them and everything. So I want to hear the other questions and kind of see where we're headed and hear from everybody. But of course, well done on your presentation and your submittal.
Councilman Stiltner.
Thank you for your interest in helping us through this process, so we appreciate that. Real quickly, how many candidates would you say that your firm has placed in Florida over the last 12 years, or 12 months?
The last 12 months, Probably half a dozen to, probably around, well, probably 6 to 8, I would say.
Okay. And one of my particular interest is, and I'm sure you can appreciate this because of some of the unique things that we happen to have going on in the current state of the city in the coming year, is trying to expedite this process. I know you said typically you're about 90 days. With using Zoom and some of the online technologies, are you finding that there's any ways where you can save a little time, cut a week here, cut a week there, and if so, can you expand on that a little bit?
We can try, and the reality is you need, once you've got the profile together, we could probably put that together a little quicker, but once you need 3 weeks, say, to have the information percolate through the industry. You know, when we get on the phone, we can reach 50, maybe 100 people on the phone. But those people may or may not be interested, and they may be contacting their friends and their friends' friends. And so if you don't allow enough time, then you don't get the same quality of field, because it needs to percolate.
Okay.
So instead of 4 weeks, we could do 3. The background checks, we could probably cut from 4 weeks to 3 weeks. We could probably cut a couple of weeks off. But, you know, the reality is, if you look at the schedule, there's not an awful lot of room. And when you think that, feel that, you know, you're going to have this manager hopefully 5-10 years, you know, what's a couple of weeks?
Sure. Well, we I think as a council, we have an interest of trying to get somebody in the seat before we get deep into our budget year. And one of the things that Ken Parker had noted was that a lot of times the information for the position gets out there quickly. In fact, we know that in a lot of cases it's already well out there. But he had indicated where a lot of interested parties will wait until the very end of that time period to put their hat in the ring, because when they do, that public information's out there and it kind of kicks off some interest. Anyhow, last question, if you could. If you had to pick one thing that sets your firm apart differently from the other two that we're interviewing tonight, what would you say that would be?
You know, I'm not sure I can comment on both the other firms, but I can tell you from my point of view what I think really sets us apart is our integrity. You know, we tell you what we're going to do, and we do it. We do it on schedule. We do it on budget. Never ask for more than the fee we've quoted. I'm sure there's been times when we were entitled, but we feel like we're the experts. So if it costs us more than we thought, then we should eat it. And I guess, you know, if I could have two, I would add communications, both with you, but also with the candidates. I've heard stories of candidates where they don't hear anything until, 2 weeks before they're supposed to be interviewed. And it's like the search goes into a black hole. We keep people informed along the way, both you and our candidates. And I guess finally the ability just to find the right.
I do have one more question.
Thanks, Con.
Good, Councilman? I'm going to try to ask the same questions of everybody that I've kind of prepared, and it depends also on how much each of the three of you cover in your presentations. You talked a little bit about background checks already. When you have a pool, I don't know, 80, 120, whatever your full pool is, obviously you're doing some kind of preliminary background check, and then you go probably hike it up before you get so you can get that 8, 10, 12 for us. What does a background check entail? What are the things that you look at in detail to get us down to that those select few?
Well, it's kind of what I talked about. The select few, we talk to them because obviously we've been successful. I've been successful in picking the right people, so that's the first thing. Now, the actual background check, it's the criminal records, civil records, bankruptcy, credit. We want to make sure that somebody can manage their own money if they're going to be managing yours. Verify the education, verify employment. It's going into the internet, and we go into newspaper archives themselves. We would use the News Journal if we were looking at somebody, say, in Daytona Beach or Port Orange. It's a source because the local papers really cover the candidates. Other papers, not so much. And we would look at the references, and that's why we find if we can talk to at least 8 people on each candidate, then we have a pretty good feel for who they are and if there's anything we need to know about.
How closely do you examine their social media accounts?
We do look at those. I do not closely examine them. We look at them to see what's on them. So.
Okay. That's kind of where I was going, if that was part of your background
Gotcha,
check.
yeah. It's something I often neglect to mention, so I apologize.
No, actually, that's what I was trying to see, is if you'd mentioned that on your own before I had to ask. But I think that is probably more and more prevalent than ever before, that the information people are willing to share about themselves without even thinking about it. It can be pretty telling at times. The other question I had is the Citizens Committee. We have employed Citizens Committee in our searches in the past, usually when trying to pare down those dozen or so candidates into the perfect 4 or 5. How would you work with a Citizens Committee if this council decided to employ one again?
Closely is the easy answer. You know, the one thing about employing them at that point is a good way to use a Citizens Committee, because sometimes people want to use them at the beginning, and then it takes 3 or 4 weeks extra to get the committee set up and all of that. If you employ them towards the end, then of course you have time to set up the committee. We give them all the same information we give to you. We meet with them in a whatever setting is possible. Ideally, in a room with people, but it may not be possible. It may have to do it on Zoom. We talk over the candidates. Quite candidly talk about. Now, there's some things you don't necessarily want in the public record, but the candidates that we're going to present aren't going to have those skeletons and such, so we will be able to talk to the candidates about.
Okay.
But we'll treat them just as we would you in the sense they'll have my cell phone number, they'll have the materials, and I'll be available 24/7 to answer their questions.
And finally, how typically do you fill your prospect pipeline?
How typically?
Yeah.
It's a variety of things. One of the things that happens is when I do a search, there's only one person that can get the job. So there's 4 or 6 or 8 others. Now, they're not necessarily qualified for your job, but they kind of go into the back of my mind, or into our pool, so to speak. We do the advertising because, like it or not, there's always a few that just somehow pop out of the woodwork through the advertising. And then our email list. Actually, our email list seems to be the best source for us, beyond the ones we already know.
Okay.
It turns up better results than advertising through ICMA or Florida League of Cities.
Okay. Quickly, follow-up questions.
I got
Chase,
one.
I know you
I
had
got- I
one.
have
Councilman
one, too.
Tremont?
I do. Two questions. In regards to Councilman Stiltner's question on the 90 days, that brought up another thought of mine. You say 90 days. Does that clock begin the moment of contact with an individual, or is that kind of just a roundabout time frame when you begin? And what happens at the end of that 90 days?
The time frame starts basically when I start meeting with you, typically. And then it ends when you select a final as your city manager. And we did a survey a few years ago, and our average time is 88 days, and that includes some searches that, for whatever reason went on a long time. I had one that, through no fault of our own, the council just had some issues, and it took over 120 days. But,
Are you mostly, is that time frame based on people you're talking to who are currently looking for a new position elsewhere, or is that about the same time frame from those that are not looking, but you have gone out to search and say, hey, you know what, this guy looks pretty good. Because that seems like a pretty quick turnaround from someone who's not actively looking but may be interested once an opportunity is proposed to. Do you go after those folks, or are you just talking to people that have expressed a desire to leave their current position?
We do both. I mean, obviously, people that have expressed a desire are the easiest ones to get to apply. But you know, we really want to find the best person for you. So if we know the city manager elsewhere in the country, or if we can find one, because again, it's networking. I call Fred, Fred tells me to call Sally, Sally tells me to call Joe. It is a quick turnaround in 3 weeks, but you know, it's what we find is workable. 4 weeks is probably the longest we like to let it go, because more than 4 weeks, I don't think you really gain anything more than 4 weeks. 3 weeks seems to be ideal, and it just works for us. So, I'm sorry, did I answer your whole question, or did I miss a part?
No, that was it. One more question. You and your firm are recently working with a city out in Hilton Head, and according to the article, you guys pulled out and discontinued working with them without trying to get into any, you know, room. I don't know what happened. I just kind of wondered if you could speak to that.
Sure. The bottom line is we had a process, and he's a very strong mayor in Hilton Head, and he had a tendency to want to do the process his way. And we had some hiccups in the process that actually caused us some grief, shall we say. And it was simple things like we said, pick 5 finalists and an alternate. Picked 4 with no alternate. And unfortunately, 2 of the candidates dropped out. And, you know, if they had picked the 5 plus an alternate, they would have had a city manager hired now, because they were all pleased with the candidates. But we just felt like the relationship was not a good one. If they weren't going to follow the process or our recommendations, they really should find somebody else that they would listen to.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Vice Mayor Bastian, any follow-up?
Yes, sir. Okay, the process, recapping it briefly, you meet with all the councilmen, develop a profile or our wants and what we need, and then you have a list of candidates already existing, or when you make that announcement, do you accept applications and resumes, or does it only come from a pool that you're familiar with?
I'm sorry, I missed part of that.
Okay, so once you develop the list of when you meet with us, and you develop that profile and you make an announcement that Port Orange is looking for a manager, do you already have a pool of candidates that you pull from, or do you accept resumes from the outside, or is it only people that you've worked with in the past?
No, it's both. I mean, we'll have some candidates that we've worked with in the past. You know, many of our searches, just because of the distribution of the size of cities in the United States, are from small cities. A lot of our searches are in the 10 to 20,000 range. Obviously,
Okay.
we need somebody from a much bigger city than that to really could handle a place like Port Orange. So we may have a few from our pool that are good candidates, but we're going to have to go out and beat the pavement and advertise and really network and find those people. Use our email list. So yes, we're going to be accepting people from the outside, shall we say. We're not just going to use our pool of candidates.
Okay, so if somebody's interested, they could contact you and submit.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I got you. All right, thank you, sir.
Councilman Stiltner, follow-up?
Yeah. How many active searches do you currently have in the process in the state of Florida for other cities?
In the state of Florida, Lady Lake, I think we're finished in Port Richey. They were just finalizing the contract there. And I think they're done. But then Lady Lake, we're working Bradenton doing a planning and community development director, and we're actually helping the city of Naples. It's a little unusual, but we're helping them in the capacity of an executive recruiter in terms of screening firms that want to be their city attorney. Those are the ones we have active at the moment.
So just 2 cities in the state right now where you're looking for city managers, Lady Lake and Port Richey?
Yeah,
Okay.
and as I said, I think we're done in Port Richey.
Okay, thank you.
Colin, appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and we really hope to work with you, and good luck. And we will give you 150%, just to throw in that extra 20.
That's a good closing. Merry Christmas,
Thank
neighbor.
Thanks,
Merry
Colin.
Christmas to you too.
Thank you, sir.
Hope to work with you.
Thank you.
Who wants this job?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Jim, you got Baker Tilly next?
Our next presenter is Baker Tilly, and let's see if they're,
I've got a name, 2 names.
Mr. Rohr, or
I have Ann Lewis and Donna Higginbotham.
Ann
Ann Lewis.
Ann Lewis is the person.
I'll look at her.
And Lewis is the person in the material, so that
Yeah.
must be.
That is, uh-huh.
There you
What-
go.
Hello, Miss Lewis?
I don't think she's in.
Hello,
Ann, can you hear us okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Lewis, we're going to start the presentation shortly. You'll have 15 minutes for presentation, and we'll allow 10 minutes for discussion there, so questions and answers. And let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready anytime you are, thank you.
Okay, after you.
Thank you. Again, my name is Ann Lewis. I'm a director with Baker Tilly, and I'm very pleased to participate in your executive search deliberation process this evening. Baker Tilly is a large executive recruitment firm that has specialized in public sector searches. We've completed over 1,500 recruitments over the last, 500 recruitments over the last 5 years itself. You'll find that our team of 10 in our executive recruitment firm are all full-time professionals. The directors, we have all served local government in different levels. We have a retired police chief, retired finance director, retired human resources director. I myself have served 3 different localities as different levels in the organization, culminating all of them as either an assistant city manager or assistant county administrator. So we understand what it's like to have turnover in the top of your organization. We understand what it's like to be an employee of an organization that has is searching for their new chief administrative officer. And then we also understand what it's like to conduct a search with an elected body, that we need to be your partner and have an interactive process so that you can fully vet your candidates and make have information in front of you so you can make the best decision for your city. You'll find that we're all very energetic. We're passionate about local government. We believe that working at the local level, we're making difference in the lives of our communities, of our neighbors, of our friends. And so this decision that you're about to make over the next several months is one of the most important you make as an elected body. We strive to really exceed your expectations. We're going to be very transparent about where we are in the process. We invite your input at the onset so that we can get a better understanding. In this time more than ever, when we're not able to travel to your community, we need to understand from each of you what you want in your next in your next city and manager, and what your community is all about, so that we can really put together a strong recruitment brochure. And when we talk to candidates, we're able to convey with them, to them, what the opportunities and challenges that they would be part of should they be extended an offer to join the city. So tonight I want to tell you a little bit about our process, what I believe, how I believe Baker Tilly stands out as far as your selection selection for a search firm. Tell you just, I told you a little bit briefly about our team, and I'll introduce how we partner with you during that process. I want to talk to you a little bit about diversity and the importance of diversity to our firm, to us as individuals, and what we bring to our searches when we place that high value on diversity. And then, of course, answer any questions that you might have. I believe that what makes Baker Tilly stand out as a search firm is that we really treat each search as a unique search. There's qualities about Port Orange that are unlike other communities, and we really dive deep to understand what that is and what it is that you're looking for in your next city manager. So it's not, while we have a structured process, and we have found that that structured process is very valuable to the decision makers to be able to understand the candidates, we're very nimble in tailoring that process to each community that we work with. We're going to keep our search on task. In my proposal, I included a timeline. We make adjustments to that timeline once a contract is signed, and then we provide you periodic reports as to where we are in that timeline, what task is set for me to complete, and what task is set for the elected body to complete. And we continue to provide those updates so that you're well informed of, and no surprises are going to come your way for certain. Obviously, we have an all-inclusive budget, and we stick to that budget. There's no additional fees beyond what we have proposed. I mentioned at the onset that diverse applicant pool is very important to us. We have partnered, we are in the corporate members of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. We participate with the Hispanic Network. We are active members in the League of Women in Government, Women Leading Government, excuse me. We also look to our emerging local government leaders networks to try to find candidates that will bring a diverse perspective in their experiences and in their backgrounds, so that you have a pool that would be one that might meet the needs of the city in different ways depending upon what your initial needs are and what your vision is for 3 to 5 years out from the time that you place a hire. We utilize technology, obviously, and during this time of COVID, we're doing remote meetings, but we have an online applicant portal process that is provides an opportunity for our candidates to upload their information. We communicate with them through that portal. We also utilize a one-way video recorded interview so that you have an opportunity to see candidates speak on their feet, so to speak, where they do not have privy to the questions ahead of time, and then you're able to see how they respond and speak extemporaneously. And we also use a what we call a talent management system, whereby each of the elected officials would respond to a survey in what you're looking for as far as leadership and management qualities. We have a similar survey that the candidates would respond to, and we overlay those and see where there may be gaps so that we can then develop interview questions that would relate to pulling from the candidates how they would bridge those gaps in what the city needs, has expressed as needs, and what they're bringing to the table. So technology is important to us, and a candidate's use of technology is also important to show that they're savvy in that regard, because certainly that's an important strength that may be needed. And again, we have a triple guarantee that commits our company to success of this search and their continued placement in the community following a period of time that they are placed. Again, I mentioned that should you retain Baker Tilly, obviously I'm a lead on your search, but we have 6 consultants that are based around the United States, in Dallas, Texas, in Kansas, in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I'm in Tysons, Virginia. So we have a broad reach. We've all served local governments, and we have strong networks. And it's something that we work continuously on, maintaining those strong networks. Our candidates have expressed to us in post-client surveys that they trust us. They know that confidentiality is important to us in a search process, where until that process becomes, that their involvement in the process becomes public, that we treat them with respect and help them make sure that they're putting their best foot forward in putting an applicant process together. We would start our search by, again, interviewing each of you to understand what your needs are and what the strategic direction of your community is. We would ask that if there were any key staff, that we would be invited to interview them as well, so that, again, we can get diverse perspectives. If you would so desire, we have included an option to survey the public, any members of your community, and provide you a summary of those survey results. We really want to understand what makes your community, what makes your city a great place to live and work. We want to understand what your capabilities, the desired capabilities of the next city manager would include, what professional leadership opportunities there are in the city, and of course include the salary and benefits package as well. We would have this approved by you along with our recruitment strategy and our marketing program, which would include a social media aspect as well. We do a lot of direct contact. Oftentimes, candidates that we include in our finalists or in our semi-finalist report are candidates that weren't necessarily looking, but once we describe to them what is available in Fort Orange, we get them excited about serving the community and invite them to put forward a application. It's, again, very important to us to reach out to and talk and include a diverse candidate pool so that we're covering all sections of your community. Again, throughout this process, you have access to the master applicant list, and we will be providing you periodic updates with what that candidate pool looks like. From there, we screen the candidates, invite those top candidates to participate in that recorded interview exercise that I mentioned to you. And then the candidates that we believe are going to be included in the semi-finalist report, we ask them to complete that leadership and management style assessment process. It's very important for us to do our due diligence. We do a comprehensive background records check and academic verifications. We do check social media, reports, etc. And we will provide you with a confidential reference report. We'll help you design a final interview process that's well coordinated, that we provide support to you in that process. We have created different processes during this time where we have had interview panels that include members of the public on Zoom meetings or a Teams meeting platform. We can invite them out, as you're fully aware, into separate interview rooms, and we have also then provided interviews with the elected body in closed session and in public session as well. We've had then obtained qualitative feedback from members of other interview panels so that you have that information to consider in your deliberation. And finally, we will make any employment offer on your behalf and help you develop a agreement with that candidate and work through that final deliberation process. So essentially, we believe that our interactive process helps us stand out, that we're experienced and passionate about the work that we do, and it really shows in the candidates and the repeat work that we've had with our communities. We are place a very high emphasis on ethical business practices, and that has again shown in our successful placements. Our corporate values and our work environment reflects that we believe in a social, in a diverse workforce, not only in our work, and it's not what we do, but it's how we convey the work that we do in our communities that we work in. It's a high value of ours. You have a very dynamic team that would be engaged in this search process. And just as an aside, what we have found is that our communities are really placing emphasis on candidates who have demonstrated leadership and transparency, that they have the ability to look at policy and services through an equity lens, that they're seeking and listening and learning about diversity, and then that they're they're acting upon what they learned from those that they surround themselves with on their leadership team. And we'll bring that out in the process that we have built and share that information through the candidates' responses in their cover letter, resume, in their responses to written questions, in their pre-recorded video interview, all of which we believe will give you a very well-rounded viewpoint into the candidates that we bring in for the finalist interview. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions?
Jim,
Can
thank
they see
you.
you walking up?
What?
Can they see you walking up? on
That's
that?
it. It's a timer. They got a timer in front of them too. They know how much time they get. Let's start with Vice Mayor Bastian this time.
And thanks for showing the interest and appearing and doing this. Can you tell me how long that your organization you're currently with and your group has been together and doing this type of work?
So our we were recently acquired by Baker Tilly. We are formerly known as Springstead or Springstead Waters and have been in business under either of those three affiliations for close to 30 years. The recruiters on this team have been together, Sharon has been doing searches for, I think, 15 or 16 years. Chuck Rohr, our retired chief, has been doing this for close to 20 years, if I recall.
Okay.
This team, Edward is new to the team in the last 3 years. I was with our team, left and returned to local government because I just couldn't stay away, and I have recently returned to the team about 3 months ago. So it's a team that's well known to each other, work very well together and partner very well on searches.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Councilman Stiltner?
Nearly 30.
And what's the, thank you for your interest in this process. What is the Baker Tilly fee again, so we can get that on the record?
The fee is $24,500, and the optional survey is $1,650. That's an all-inclusive fee, excluding if you bring any candidate that's on site that there would be potential costs associated with their travel.
Okay. And how many candidates has your firm placed in the state of Florida in the last 12 months?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll have to obtain that information and return that to you. I don't recall the placement, and I could also include any director level candidates if that would be of interest.
Okay. Do you know how many current or active searches your firm has in the state of Florida for city manager positions?
At this time, we don't have any active searches for city manager in the state of Florida.
One of the concerns that I've had, and I think some of the other council members have had, is with some of the things currently going on within our city, and you know, a big year coming, is are there things that we can do to expedite the process without losing quality in the search through this process with COVID, but yet also being able to use technology. Have you guys found any opportunities to cut a week here, cut a week there, and if so, can you expand on that, please?
We have found some opportunities. I'll say that what I do not like to sacrifice in our time is our initial kickoff time and the time for our candidates to put together a comprehensive application package. So I want to make sure that I'm getting enough information from the elected body and I'm giving enough time for the advertisements to be posted and for the responses. After that, I am able to shore up time, particularly if at the onset we have a timeline that we all agree upon and then that we're all able to stick to, as far as, we can even select interview dates at the onset if the council so desires, so that everyone has that placeholder in time. So yes, there are opportunities. There are ways that we can run some of our process concurrent. As an example, when we ask the surveys to be completed by the elected body, we can set that off to you very early on in the process, so that when our candidates are doing that part of the process, they too can complete that concurrent with some of their other activities that they're providing to us. So there is some opportunity. I just don't want to sacrifice it at the early side of the recruitment.
Sure, thank you. And last question. I'm sure you're aware there's two other firms that we're interviewing this evening. What is it that sets Baker Tilly apart? What is it that we would be getting differently if we chose Baker Tilly?
I really believe that what sets Baker Tilly apart is that we're able to provide you perspective of candidates from multiple means. We can all look really good in a cover letter and resume, but we're going to ask for their cover letter and resume. We're going to ask for them to respond to written questions that we develop based upon our initial conversations with the elected body and our understanding of what the opportunities are in the community, so that you can read about what their experiences are in specific areas, and you get a sample of their writing style. Then you get to see a video interview of them responding extemporaneously. So combine that with the different ways to look at a candidate and then bringing them in for a final interview. That is it is a practice that we have found is very effective. And the talent assessment and leadership style assessment is the other way to look at a candidate. And you're able to really dive deep into what their experiences are and what their fit is, what their style is, and whether that's going to be what the city is looking for in their next city manager. I think that sets us apart as a component of our search.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Tremont.
Thanks for being here, taking the time. Can you give me, again, you may have mentioned it before, but kind of your time frame as to about how long your process takes?
Our time frame is anywhere from 3 to 4 months. Again, we'll develop that with you at the onset. We have specific timelines that we allow for each phase in our process. We're able to shore some of that up so that we can expeditiously move a search along. But typically, it runs anywhere from 3 to 4 months.
Are you typically going after folks that are current city managers, or do you look at assistants? Do you look at, where are you typically drawing your list from?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we have we have individuals who have indicated that they're looking for their next community to live in. But once we talk with each of you, we'll have a better understanding of what level of experience that you would like. Some communities are looking for someone with strong financial acumen, and so having someone move from a CFO position to an assistant or a city manager position is not uncommon. Having current city managers, county administrators, having assistants, they all bring different perspectives and different experiences, and depending upon the size of community they've served. So we cast a wide net, and then when we're doing our candidate evaluation is when we're really going to hone in on what the experience they bring, and is it going to be the best to suit the city of Port Orange. So it's all encompassing really in what we look toward.
Now, are you also typically going after folks that have already expressed a desire to leave their current position? And do you also have feelers out to look for folks that have not expressed a desire to leave their current position? How do you attack that? Oh
yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, I did a search here not too long ago in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I do what I typically do and call some folks and say, this is the community I'm working in. Do you know of anyone who might be a good fit here, who might have experience in these areas? And a name came up, and I called that candidate out of state and said, this is what I have. Are you interested? And his initial reaction was, no, and I'm really happy at where I'm at. And we talked for a little bit longer, and I attracted him to apply for the position, and he was ultimately offered the position. So that quote-unquote cold call is not uncommon for us to make. We just really work our networks to try to figure out who those candidates are and what community they might best serve in our searches that we're working on. And I will say, we also have a strong network with retired military and private sector. There are communities that have that would be conducive for those skill sets to transfer to. And so we're not, we don't keep a blinder on to they must only have public sector experience, but we really try to understand what the needs are when we're evaluating those candidates and attracting and advertising for their interest.
Now, you mentioned Port Orange has unique qualities. Could you describe our city to me the way in which you might describe it to a prospective candidate?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. I'm not as well versed in Port Orange, and I'm embarrassed to say that this evening. One of the things that I've seen in doing some of the research is that you've had a city manager who has served the community well and you're in a strong financial position, and you have professional directors that you need to continue. You have been able to place people in positions to carry on the work of the city during this time of COVID when your manager is not able, and so you're going to be attractive in that way that you've had strong leadership. And for me to understand better what your community is like will be paramount to me being able to accurately market your community to candidates.
Can you tell me what the population of Port Orange is?
I don't have that right off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's all. Thank you. Thank you again, ma'am.
Thank you.
A couple of you took my thunder. You asked about my pipeline question. Going back to background checks, you touched on that a little bit. What are some of the elements that you put into looking at when you do the intensive background check for finalist candidates?
So obviously, our references are very important to us, and when we conduct references, we're not always asking for the folks that are in the traditional list that a candidate might provide us, but we do seek out other individuals who might have an understanding of how that individual has performed in other communities. Mm-hmm. Also included in background checks, we'll have an understanding of their consumer credit. We will look at the court system for their any criminal activity or civil litigation. We'll have an understanding if there's any tax liens. We'll conduct a motor vehicle driving record, understand and obtain their education verification. And then we'll also look at any state or federal court activity that might be applicable and do a sex offender registry search.
What do you do with social media?
Social media, we will conduct a review of their social media. Obviously, it's difficult to obtain if they are on a private network or have blocked, public viewing if you're not a quote-unquote friend. We do look at their LinkedIn activity, and then we will do a comprehensive review of any newspaper activity that they might be involved in.
Okay. And in the past, the city of Port Orange has used a citizen committee to help screen the dozen or so finalists down to that perfect 4 or 5. Is that a problem, or how do you see yourself working with such a citizens committee if we choose to do so again this time?
Yep, absolutely. That's no problem at all. We take a look at what you've done in the past, and then we'll craft a process whereby it may be that we are putting together a list of interview questions for that panel. We'll provide them a tool whereby they can provide constructive feedback, whether that be in a written format or in some sort of survey tool, and then provide that information to the council so they can review it. Some localities will have that panel meet with the elected body in a meeting, and they will discuss the candidates in that format. It will really depend on what you would how you would desire to receive that feedback.
Okay. Follow-up questions, Vice Mayor Bastian?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Councilman Stiltner?
Nothing.
Councilman Tremont? Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here with us this evening.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for zooming in.
Thank you, Ms.
Absolutely.
Lewis. Thank you.
And Jim, you got one more for us.
Okay, we have one more, and that is the Mercer Group and Miss Higginbotham. Okay.
From all the way across the river. A river runs between us. Donna, if you're there, you can unmute and join us.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you this evening, Honorable Mayor Burnett, council members. I am so honored to be with you again, as we were 5.5 years ago when we placed Jake Johansson with you. And it was an honor to work with you then, and I hope that you will select our firm again. I know that you know I'm just across the bridge, but you don't know why. Because we loved the Port Orange area so much when we were involved in the process 5.5 years ago with you, that we decided to move here. And we found our place just across the bridge from Port Orange. So Port Orange is our go-to city. Everything that I do is in Port Orange. Everything that's important to me. It's such a wonderful city. And we've opened our Mercer Group Florida office in Daytona Beach Shores. So we are readily available and would love to do this search with you again. We have watched Port Orange grow in the last 5.5 years and thrive. I remember the first time we came here, the pavilion was maybe 3 or 4 stores, and look at it now. And look at the apartments across the street. And it's all because of you. It's your vision for the city and how it's not a planned community, but you have planned your city by choice. And what you do is for your residents to make it more livable for the people who live there. And we admire you for that. We as Mercer Group Florida We have a 7-step process. It's the same process we did with Jake. It works. We will meet with each of you. I'll do a Zoom meeting with you. I'll pick up the phone with you. I'll meet you at Panera Bread, whatever you wish to do. I would be at your disposal. I want to find out what is most important to you for your next city manager. What are the things that you are focused on? What are the things that your residents tell you they want next? Not only is it those beautiful medians that you're putting in right now and continue to work on them, that's an amazing enhancement to the city. But there are more things that your residents want and what you want as well. I want to know those things because in looking for your next city manager, I want to find that city manager that best meets your needs, who has the same vision for the beautiful city of Port Orange that you do. Our recruitment process, we access all of the social media sites. We have a Facebook page, we have Instagram, Twitter. We'll advertise on Indeed. We will advertise it nationally on ICMA, Florida League of Cities. We will reach out to our 13 consultants all over the United States. So while we are Mercer Group Florida, there are 13 other consultants in Mercer Group Inc. that I can call upon, and they will advertise and be looking out for your next city manager as well. We will design a brochure for you as we did the last time. We do not have a database. I'll just be upfront. Database is only good for about 30 days. Those that are truly looking will have found something by then. However, we do know those that are looking that don't want to put their name out there to every search. And I have a list of people currently that I know are looking, but they're looking for just the right fit. I will personally review every single resume. Those that meet your minimum qualifications that we set forth, I will have a Zoom meeting with them. I want to see them face to face and talk to them. I will ask them the key questions that you're looking for in the next city manager. I want to know their management style so that I can report that back to you. I want to know what did they do to prepare for my interview with them about the city of Port Orange. I want to know that they looked at your city website. I want to know that they looked at your budget, that your plan for the city, that if you have a community development area, what is the next step for the city? And from that, I will present a list to you of 12, 15 candidates. If you would like to have a resident committee to help go over those resumes, we'll be happy to do that. However you want this search to go is how we will plan the steps for you. We will do candidate screening before we present any of the finalists to you. Those background screenings include their credit check and education verification, their criminal records, their driving records, employment verification. You will know about 13 pages worth of information on each of the finalists that you choose to bring to your city. Prior to that, we will do a search on our end that we can do without their permission. Google search, we'll search on their LinkedIn accounts, and every way that we can find information that you need to know. We will then help you arrange the interview process. COVID has taught us many different ways of doing things. Some things are more efficient. And in a recent search that I conducted in 2 different cities for city manager of Cocoa and for the village manager of Palmetto Bay, we actually did a town hall meeting virtually. So in one, the residents were able to submit questions, and I read those questions to the candidates, and they were able to answer them live in front of the mayor and council. And in the other, everything was by Zoom. The mayor of Palmetto Bay and the council members, they were all on Zoom, and the residents were on Zoom doing their questions as well to the candidates, and those worked very, very well. We will help you in making your decision. I know it's never easy to decide on who you're going to have as your next city manager. This is probably the most important decision that you will make in the coming weeks. We'll also help you with the negotiation of their contract and follow-up. I'll follow up. I just spoke with Palmetto Bay last week, and I will be with you every step of the way, and I'm going to follow up every month to see how that city manager is doing. One thing we do have is a guarantee that if for any reason the city manager should not be a good fit for your city and you find out that 6-7 months down the road, we'll do your next search for only our expenses. You will have no professional fees involved. Our fees are $17,750 for our professional services, plus expenses not to exceed $2,250. The only additional fee to the city would be the expenses for bringing in the finalist candidates. That typically runs, because we've got an airport here in Daytona, it may run $500 to $600 per candidate, depending on where they come from. So at this time, I will open it up to questions. The thing that I failed to mention is that we do have a 12-week or less process. Okay. But that depends on you too. If you want it to be a little shorter, we can tweak that a little bit, but our process is in 12 weeks, and I believe that is on page 5 of my proposal to you. So at this time, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain.
Okay, Donna, thank you very much. This time it's Councilman Stiltner's turn to start.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for your interest in putting in for this process with your firm. We're glad to have you, and thanks for zooming in with us tonight. A few questions for you, if you can touch on some of this. How many candidates has your firm placed in Florida in the last 12 months? Specifically, city manager candidates?
I have placed 2.
2. And what
in
city?
the last months.
And what cities were those? I know Cocoa was one. What was the other?
Cocoa and Palmetto Bay, the village of Palmetto Bay. It is a outlying city from Miami.
Right. Okay. And currently, how many active searches do you have ongoing for cities in the state of Florida for city managers?
I have no city manager searches at this time, so I could devote 95% of my time to you. I have one other search going for the city of Newport Richey for a planning and community development director.
Okay.
Which we're pretty close to finding that
And
right fit for that.
All right, thank you. I have been asking also, one of the interests that I have in the council is we don't want to shortcut on quality, but we're looking to expedite the process. As you can imagine, when we get closer and closer into budget seasons, it gets a little tough for somebody to break ground. But with COVID and technology available and things like that, have you guys found any ways to, and I know you said you have a 12-week process, I like that, but have you found any ways where that gets shortened up by a week or two here or there, and can you expand on that?
we're looking at the holidays as well. That's probably our biggest catch right now. But we could do a closing date in 3 weeks. We could do that. We could leave the recruitment open for 2 weeks, but that's going to lessen the number of applicants that we may be able to get. That's not going to change how I do things, because I'm going to give you 200% of what I do anyway, and I'm still going to be actively searching for, you know, the right fit for Port Orange. I have an investment here too. I want the best for Port Orange.
Thank you. And one of the things that I wanted to ask and get you to touch on, if you could give us a little insight, is during the Cocoa City Manager search process, and correct me if I've read this wrong, but the first group of 5 finalists that the firm brought forward, the council did not agree to move forward any further with any of that first group of 5. And then it struggled with the second group that was brought forward. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, and what would you guys do a little differently? If there was anything you see that you would do differently, what did you guys learn from that process?
Every city is unique. And
we can guarantee you that part for sure.
I can guarantee that part as well. My late husband was a city manager for 30 years, so
You know,
I know every city is unique. Cocoa had hoped that there would be more local residents that applied, and that's why it was reopened. Now, they did choose 2 from the original pool to move forward to the final stage. So,
Okay. And when you say local, do you mean they were looking for folks just in Brevard County or Florida candidates, or what did they consider local? I'm just curious.
there were several that had some people in mind that they had hoped in Brevard County
Got it.
would apply that had not at that point.
Okay.
So I believe maybe they received some encouraging phone calls to encourage them to get their application to me.
Okay.
And that was the end result.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all, man.
Councilman Tremont.
I'll be honest with you, I was looking for someone that can give 250%, but 200.
I can do that.
All right. Sorry, had to do it for the crowd. Do you, in your pool of candidates that you typically draw from, are you looking for assistant managers, looking for a pool from current city managers? Do you have a mix of both? What's your preference of creating your list?
I'm going to visit with you, and first of all, and I'm going to find out what are your priorities. What type of education do you want your candidates to have? How many years of experience do you want them to have? Whether it be as an assistant or as a city manager. And then part of my screening of the candidates will be for those that meet the minimum qualifications that you set forth. Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. And then, are you typically going after folks that are seeking to look or to leave their current position, or do you also have feelers out looking for folks that are happy right where they're at? And do you go after those people?
I'll do anything it takes. I have phone numbers, I have names. Having been in Florida since 1984, I know Florida.
What other cities in the area have you been contracted to work for?
That I have contracted with?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
In this
Before my husband passed away,
in this particular area.
just a month before he passed away, we finished Hallandale Beach for the city manager there.
Any in the Volusia, Flagler, Seminole area?
I'm sorry?
And, I'm speaking more toward Volusia, Flagler, Seminole area. You brought in the previous Deltona city manager?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we know. Yes. Let's see.
She looked good enough for them to hire at the time.
I don't have my list in front of me.
Oh, that's okay.
But
I'll just-
We've done several cities in Florida.
Donna, what about other positions than city manager locally?
I just completed 4 searches for the city of Hollywood. Everything from the director of financial services to the parks and rec director. They are currently finalizing their deputy city attorney, and we placed the deputy director for public utilities of finance.
Okay.
And those were in the last 4 months.
Thank you.
Council, any other follow-up questions?
I didn't get to ask any questions, John.
Why not? Oh, that's
You did.
because we left you for third. Never mind.
Exactly.
I changed the order each time.
Donna, thanks for being here and thanks for the interest and for being local and obviously having a good knowledge of Port Orange. Were you directly involved with our last recruitment for Mr. Johansson?
I assisted my late husband with that one, yes.
Oh, okay. Now I see the Mercer, Florida has about a little over 10 years experience. You have 20 plus in recruitment.
Yes, I do.
And
I was doing recruiting in another field, but
okay.
I do know how to recruit.
And then Mercer as a company about 26, 28 years?
Mercer Group Inc. has been in operation since 1990, for 30 years.
30, okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to break that down. Let's see here. Going through the, like the background check and all that, you guys dig pretty much into everything. I'm going to steal some of yours, Don. Social media, do you look into social media?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
okay, very good.
The only thing that we don't use are blogs, because those are personal opinions, and I'm sure you
Okay.
know how blogs can go.
Okay, that's understandable.
Yes.
Alrighty, that's it for now. Thank you.
I will tell you that when we submit a report to you on your final candidates, we will provide a link, and I will give you a thumb drive of all the information that I have on each candidate. And the links to any newspaper articles, any other information that we have found. We contract with a background company out of Walnut Creek, California,
Okay.
and they do all of our background work for us and then submit a report.
Okay, very
And
good.
that's typically 11 to 14 pages long.
Okay, perfect. And you said you don't have a database. They're only good for about 30 days. So literally, once we develop the profile and sit down with you, if you're selected, then you create the advertisement or the interest and then take resumes and applications that way.
But I do have a couple of people in mind right now.
Okay. All righty. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well,
I
we
will
hope-
tell you that, should I be honored to do the city manager search for Port Orange, each one of you will have my personal cell phone number. You can reach me in
Very
any time
good.
of day. You can call, you can text. I will be accessible to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
My council, between your presentation and my council's questions, the 4 questions I've asked all the candidates have already been answered, so you're off the hook with me for now.
Okay.
And
For
at this
now,
point,
okay. But
let's see if
should
there are
you
any
think of
follow-ups.
any, you know where to find me.
Any follow-up questions?
I'm good.
Very good. Donna, thank you very much. Have a terrific Christmas holiday. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I would love to do this recruitment for you.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you, Donna.
Before Jim goes into his missive here, I just want to remind council that the sheet before you, the tally sheet, is a public record. So when you make sure you put your name on it. I am not going to be asking for scores up here as we go and allow them to tally. I want you to tally your scores, and they will be calculating them, because I don't want anybody hearing anybody else's scores and having anybody question that process. But Jim, you want to tell us how you want us to do this?
Okay, yes, basically, those scores is fairly easy. If you would, just go ahead and take them on a basis of 1 to 10, okay? And there's a sort of a scheme there, 9 to 10 outstanding, adequate 6 to 10, marginally 3 to 5, unacceptable 0 to 2. Just arranged there. And if you would, put the score besides each of the companies, and that is multiplied times that weight there. And then will be the total, will come up to, of course, perfect score would be 100. If you receive 10s on everything, 9, it calculates, it's times that weight there, and then I'll be asking for the totals, and I'll put them up here
drop
on
the
the
zero.
board there. Any questions? Just 1 to 10 for each of the vendors, Baker Tilly, Collins, and Mercer Group. Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim, I'm just curious, in the event of a numerical tie, do we have a tiebreaker, or we start the, we coin flip that, or start the interview process over?
It goes to the mayor's preference.
There you go, mayor's preference.
Yeah, normally with, yeah, there you go. You'd have to discuss it and come with a consensus, whatever you agree on.
Oh, we discussed
I
it.
figured.
What are we doing with this second, multiplying our stuff by what?
Once you get that first number, say you got a 9, then if your weight is 50, multiply it by 5, and you get 9 times 5 is 45.
We're multiplying the first column by 5 each?
Well, yeah, your first
Where's
column
the
by
key?
5, your second by 3, your third by 2.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
So I'm glad you taught history.
That was Chevy Chase, Saturday Night Live. It was anyone
Right.
know Chevy Chase from Saturday Night Live? Did you get that? Come on.
We don't have printers up here, though, so.
Right.
Jim?
Okay, so you only want the total score calculated, not the score, the single digit numeric. Did I do that right? Take a look at
Let's
that.
see here. Yeah, you got it. You got
Okay.
it. That's fine.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Today's date.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't too observant.
That's all right. I just finished.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Should be in that file. Just four of them.
Oh, got it, thank you.
There's only 4 of us now.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, put donation to the Salvation Army in there and
Okay, we
Oh.
got you here. Okay, it's very close. It looks like Bengzinger and Associates at 363 is the highest ranked company. Mercer Group comes in at second, 359, and Baker Tilly at 309.
okay. So,
Okay.
as the selection committee, we have a very close decision, but as the council, we can, if we're not comfortable with that, just saying.
Jim, can you go back?
Can you
and-
tell me those numbers again? I'm sorry, Drew.
Okay.
Can you put them back up for a quick?
Okay, Bengzinger is 363, Baker Tilly 309, and Mercer Group is 359. So it's very close between Mercer Group and Bengzinger and Associates.
Can you leave that up for a minute?
So basically, your winner there was an average of 1.3 points. That was the spread between them.
That's good.
On the 100-point scale was 1.3 points.
Wow.
I say you definitely have a definitive top 2. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'm willing to make a motion, Mayor. I'll make a motion that we hire contracted services with Colin Benzinger and Associates to perform a executive search for a new city manager for the city of Port Orange.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to accept Colin Bansinger. Council discussion.
Mayor, if I could just address the motion just a second.
Very good.
Just to move this forward quickly, that we got that message early on. You have already seen the contract. It was with your RFP that you reviewed as well.
Yep.
So with that motion, I would just request that you go ahead and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute all contract documents so we can get that moving tomorrow.
That part of the motion
That is part of my motion, Mayor.
and part of your second?
Part of my second.
Okay, council discussion.
Good process, Jim. Thank you very much for all
Thank
the
you.
work you have to put in, and certainly I'm sure that any of the 3 that made the top 3 would do a great job for us. Obviously, we can only use one, and I think a good scoring process you put together for us, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Drew, comments, questions?
Yeah, I think, I mean, by, looking at the voting and seeing actually how close it was for the top 2, would we have a 5-point difference,
It's
just
4
about?
points.
4-point difference. And so, in looking at it, the only, I like Basinger a lot and Mercer. The only knock I had on Basinger was the fee was more than, they had the highest fee, but also they are quite thorough and everything. And so, in looking at it, yeah, I think we have, we can't go wrong with either 2. And so, however this vote goes, we'll see. But Basinger was ranked very highly as well on my end. Thank you.
Okay. Chase, comments?
Yeah, I'll just go down the line with them. Baker Tilly, in my industry, I work with colleges all across the country, and I'd never call a school that I'm working with and not know what their student population is or what their mascot is. And if you're going to tell me we have unique qualities about Port Orange, then I want to hear about them. Don't tell me you didn't do the homework. So I took an issue with that. Maybe watching this back, they'll they'll do things better in their future interviews. I was extremely impressed with Basinger and Mercer. I was, internally going back and forth. And on paper, Mercer came out on top for me, but I like the intangible qualities that I can't put on paper. So I was looking at my only holdup, like Drew, was the cost was much higher than the others. However, you're paying for a different you're paying for a different quality, I guess, and that's no slight to Mercer, because they've clearly demonstrated that they can do a great job. But there was a gut that I had about the one that we've motioned for.
Many times it often comes down to that. I would not be displeased with either the first place or the second place firm. I was comfortable with the expertise of the third place firm, but they cast a larger net, and it seems like them being to narrow down the funnel and address our needs. I'm sure that they could probably do that, but I'm not sure that they knew what had any kind of grasp or grip on what those are tonight, and that was a deciding factor for me as far as their operating methodology and the like. So. For what it's worth, I am comfortable with the motion and the second that you've made. Would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to council. Final comments or questions? Call the roll.
Councilmember Trayvon.
Yes.
Councilmember Spiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 4-0. Colin Basinger is our selection choice. I'm glad that we could move this rapidly before Christmas, and honestly, this council owes a lot to our staff, HR, finance, and administration, the like, moving forward in RFP, getting bids in, processing the things that we needed to do, and help us to make sure that we do the things that we need to do up here to help you do that. And honestly, I didn't think when we first started talking about it a month ago, I didn't think we would have a firm selected so quickly. And we owe our staff a debt of gratitude. Thank you all. Even you, Alan, who seems to be leaving, which leads us to the next item of discussion. Item 6, thanks for your resignation letter today. Congratulations are in order, I think, I hope. I know that you've got to be pretty happy and pretty excited about that. Of course, you understand if we all have mixed feelings about it. But tell us what's going on with you and what your last day will be and what we need to consider.
I do too, Mayor. I have mixed feelings. It's very bittersweet for me. I've really grown to love my Port Orange family, my Volusia County colleagues, and it's sad to be leaving. But as I stated somewhere in an email or something, at least I'm just a county away and a phone call away. So I can come and visit, but it won't be the same. The Lake County Board of County Commissioners voted today to accept the contract for my services for Lake County Manager. My first day there is going to be February 8th. My proposed last day here is January 22nd. Yes, January 22nd, which is a little over 30 days. And so based on that knowledge, you will be having a vacancy in this seat coming up. There are a couple of options that you have. You have asked for me to inquire in the staff of who might be interested in serving in this position, and you did get one applicant. I sent that to you last week, I believe. And of course, the other options you have available to you are going outside, what that would look like. There's a number of options. We could put out a notice pretty quickly on sites like FCCMA, ICMA, things like that, and get people to put in resumes. We could also go with an intern placement organization or company similar to the ones you were talking to tonight. Basically, the way they charge in talking to them is they take the fully loaded cost of your city manager and they basically turn that cost around on you and then pay that person, and you're contracting with the company, not necessarily that individual. And they would come and work here during that interim. And some of them have like placement fees, so if for some reason that's the person that you wanted, you would owe that company the money if you wanted to hire them full time. But it looks like we're headed in a different direction for that. So I guess council can do whatever it pleases, of course. Obviously, the sooner you make that decision, the better for us to be able to get that person, in the hot seat and get ready to take it over. If council does not want to make a decision tonight, I know there's only 4 council members, but if you do not want to make a decision tonight, definitely let us know if you'd like to gather more applications and then maybe have interviews or have things that you could be ready to review on the 5th, because we are having a special meeting, and maybe we could add it to that if you'd like. I'm getting the stare of death for adding things to special meetings. But what's your pleasure, council, and we'll make it happen.
Chase, internal candidate, external candidate, what's your preference? What are your thoughts? What would you like to do?
I don't have an interest in going outside. I think we have enough talent here within our own staff to not spend the dollars of going out. That's my preference. I'm going to be unified with whatever council decides. I think whatever we do, we ought to be unified with it and not be divided. But my preference is to stay in-house.
Okay. Drew, your thoughts?
We do have a terrific staff and support staff, and the players are in place. I kind of wanted to see what's available out there, but we do have a short, for an interim, we do have a short window, so I don't know if we'd be able to find that candidate and agree on that. So whatever the council's pleasure is, like I said, I'd be unified with. I'd really like to see our options, but if that's not possible, then that's okay by me too.
Ideally, if we choose a city council candidate, or a city manager candidate in 12 weeks, it could be 30 to 60 days. It could be right away. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But you're talking about 12 to 20 weeks, which is actually after Alan leaves, 8 to 20 weeks.
Yeah.
So the time frame does certainly have something to do with our decision. Scott, what are your thoughts or preferences?
I'd like to have a conversation with Jamie Miller for a minute.
Well, that's what we're
You
going to
guys
do right
will
after
entitle
this.
that, and then I'll have a really good idea, I think, at that point.
Okay. Well, in that case, there was one internal candidate
I
who
heard that.
expressed an interest, and Alan, if you would, I think council would like to talk to her.
Absolutely. Ms. Miller, would you mind joining us?
Don't I know you from somewhere?
Yes, Jamie Miller, Administrative Services Director, Mayor and Council.
Why don't you start by telling us why you want to do this crazy thing, and tell us why do you think you'll do well serving us in the interim?
Sure, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've lived in Port Orange over 20 years. I started with the city in April 2011. Prior to that, I actually was an unpaid intern with the city, and I fell in love with local government. I didn't go into the city of Port Orange thinking that was my career path. I have a passion for human resources, organizational development. I have my master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. So doing right by people really is what drove me. And then when I found you could not only serve your employees, but get into an organization that had the ability to serve residents on top of that and truly make an impact, it really lit a fire within me. So I've looked, and the organization's given me tremendous opportunities to continue to grow throughout the organization. I've served in a number of capacities, including the last 3-ish years as the Administrative Services Director, which has human resources, information technology, and risk management. Within that time, has actually sparked from a conversation with Mr. Rosen. I was talking about continued interest, and he said, a lot of city managers, if that's a route you want to go, come up through the budget side. So I was fortunate enough that Tracy gave me the opportunity to step over to the finance department for a year and serve and go through the budget process. Was a tremendous learning opportunity there. And each time, I've just taken a little bit of bits and knowledge, and I've learned so much from my colleagues around me, the leaders that have influenced this organization, and been given different opportunities to continue to step up and serve. And if the council would like that, I would enjoy the opportunity to do that as well.
Okay. Well, Scott, since you're the one that wanted to bring her up here, I think we
Have at
all
it.
did, but you're just the one who mentioned it. Why don't we start with you?
I'll try to go through these 40 questions as quick as I can. Jamie, it's important for me, as we've discussed, that this is something you feel very strongly and you feel very good about. So I just want to make sure that I've asked basically 2 questions for you. Do you fully understand what the council's expectations are and what we're looking for?
Yes, I do.
Okay, maybe 3 questions actually. Do you have any questions about those expectations and what we're looking for?
So I believe the interim role, and I've heard a lot from council and listened diligently. The focus for me is keeping things on track. We have a tremendous leadership group behind us, keeping things all moving in the same direction. That's one of the great things about our current team is we do all move in that same direction. So keeping that thing going, looking for bringing in that new city manager, the permanent role, and getting them up to speed as well. So I understand the communication, the dedication, the commitment, the challenges that come along with that, and I think we can tackle anything that comes our way.
My last question is the biggest. Do you have any reservations about doing this? Or are you all
So
in?
I think I had expressed in my letter of interest that I provided to you guys and accounted when Jake was putting me in the director role. He said, "Are you ready for this?" And I said, "If I wait till I'm 100% ready, I may never make that step." But part of leadership is being able to take those risks sometimes. This is a tremendous opportunity. I'm excited about the idea of potentially doing this, but I understand that, we'll learn along the way, and there may be some things that we have some discussions on, but I think we can get through those.
Thanks.
Drew?
Jamie, how do you, well, let me ask you this, and do you see any, and related to the city manager job, do you see any weaknesses in yourself that might have, that you have a little bit of concern with? And then how would you, if it were a subject or something that came up, how would you go about reaching out or getting the assistance to help you, if you perceive any weaknesses?
Sure. I'm a big believer in developing that network around you, not only from the staff level, which we have tremendous, but other cities in the county, in the organization, and we have the Chamber of Commerce that we meet regularly with. There's a lot of people that want to see this organization be successful. They know that there's a transition period, and they're all rooting for it to be a smooth transition. So to me, that's the best way to overcome any hurdle. I would say if I reflect across the organization, one of the areas that I've been trying over the last couple of year or so with Jake to get more involved with is the community development, economic development side of it. Now, from an interim standpoint, there may be some very critical items that we're continuing conversation on, but I understand that's more of a long-term approach. But that is one area that I've been continuing to try to work and develop a little bit more, but we've got a great staff there.
Okay, excellent. One more on with what you're doing now, the negotiating with a couple of groups. This is a lot more responsibility. Are you able to pass that negotiate? I mean, you're a chief negotiator, so are you going to be able? I mean, do you feel you're going to be able to manage both?
So it wouldn't be unheard of for a city manager to sit at the negotiation tables. I know Les at South Daytona does it.
Yeah.
Not a long-term preference, in my opinion. I believe that who is your lead negotiator should not be your city manager. So this is an ever-changing platform.
Yeah.
So I think if in the short term these contracts are hopefully close to wrapping up, I don't have as much of a concern. If it became protracted, I've evaluated some other options that we could potentially explore for resources to accomplish that goal.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Chase?
Yeah, you could potentially become the boss of people that have been your peers over the last few years. How will you be able to hold those folks accountable if they're not doing their job or you need to correct them?
I've faced that challenge before. Obviously, before I was put in the Administrative Services Director, they were my peers as well. So we worked through that. I think the biggest part of that is the relationship we've built already. You know, I think if you get into a situation where you're trying to have that light switch flip, then that's when things start to, the power curve gets a little off tilter. So I believe it's been through developing the trust of the department heads all along, through collaboration. It's not about the because I said so, you know, and that is one of the things that we talk through the issues. You know, sometimes we agree to disagree, but being HR, we currently have that dynamic as well. So that's something that, you know, I think that there's already a foundation built there that we can move forward on.
You sat in the seat for 30 days. Were you able to identify current weaknesses that we are experiencing right now?
So we can always look to grow and be better and do things differently. There's always going to be areas for us to improve on. I would say one of the major things that I would be looking for is I understand that we want to get somebody in here before the budget season kicks off. But for me, I don't want to wait for that new manager to get in here for the budget season to get kicked off. So that is one of, I would say, would be one of my main priorities is starting that process and getting that rolling, because we do have a challenging budget season ahead of us with some big changes. We all know the minimum wage has recently passed, and we're going to have to start putting some plans in place to start working towards solving some of those items. So I don't want us to wait on those items. So that would be one of my main focuses that we would start working on.
Do you want this?
I do.
Alan, did we put out some sort of an all-call at all to staff to if anyone interested put in your application?
Yes, sir.
And nobody else did?
That is correct.
Seems to me that staff was
scared them all
unanimous.
away?
Seems to me staff was unanimous in who they're comfortable in leading them.
I think it was a nice way of saying she scared them off. Jamie, tell me about a time when you've had to solve a unique personnel problem.
So we
And if that person's in the room, don't you?
trying to without disclosing too many details that may be personally identifiable. I think the biggest challenge is we often come across personnel issues, and I'm a big believer in we're not a zero defect mentality organization, but we do hold people accountable, and our expectations should be clear, and that starts with the managers and the supervisors. You know, they need to be doing what they need in order to set employees up for success in those. Now sometimes that does fall apart. So for me, my experience is once that discipline is issued, and the intent of discipline is not to punish, but obviously the intent of discipline is to change that behavior, the focus of making sure that employee gets back on that track to go back and become part of the productive member of the team. And I've seen, working with, you know, a number of our departments, that successful turnaround. We've seen where employees come to that V, you know, and it could go one way or the other. And separation from the organization sometimes happens. But to me, the real wins and successes are when they go on and we all learn from it and they become a productive member of the team.
You and I have had numerous conversations already about expectations and the like, and you regurgitated a little bit of that tonight. And if council so selects, I'd like to say that I'm very comfortable. But at any point in time, you're having issues. You've got us, and most certainly you've got the people around you.
That's right.
And you've got a very, very tall, large, wonderful, I think she's about 7'5" in stature, interim assistant city manager. that I
sure.
think the two of you will work well together to
Absolutely.
solve the things as they come up. And, you know, Marilyn said it before she left. Right now, this is about keeping the car running in the center, running good. Just we don't have to get radical. We don't have to get excited. We don't have to try too many things. We just have to keep the machine moving forward. And there's still going to be a lot to do, and I look forward to that. Council, before I ask you for a motion or your further comments, I think it'd be important at this time that we hear from the public, if anybody wants to comment. Anybody? There being none, back to us. Council, comments, suggestions, questions, discussion, what would you like to do?
I would like to comment real quick, briefly, that I do believe that selecting Jamie for this role is a really good choice for the city of Port Orange. But it's more than just about Jamie. I think it's also, at least for me, it's my endorsement of our department staffs and senior leadership team that we have. I don't believe we need to bring somebody in outside because I believe that leadership team is so good and so talented that I think with Jamie's demeanor and her experience and the resources that are around her, I've got the complete confidence that she can get us through this period of time and into the transition. So I'm good with supporting Jamie for that position.
Drew, your thoughts?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Chase, your thoughts?
Comments well said. I'm going to beat you, Drew. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jamie Miller as our acting city manager.
I'll second.
Wait a second, we've got one right now. You can't just kick him to the curb.
With
You know
a
when his last day
prospective
is,
date.
right?
All right.
You know when his last day
with
is?
an effective date.
Yeah, it's like the something 20.
Friday the 22nd
Third,
around 5
22nd.
o'clock. So like 5:01-ish on Friday
Yeah,
the 22nd
that sounds
would be
good.
Do you have to stay till then?
of January.
I'll
So
stay
your,
till then.
so your motion is to appoint Jamie Miller, the interim city manager, effective January 22nd, 2021, as of 5 p.m. of that day?
So moved.
That's your motion?
That is my motion.
That's my second.
That's your second?
Yes,
You should have
sir.
made the motion faster.
Well, I wanted to give the others a chance to talk.
Yeah, see what happens when you're
That's
nice
okay.
and kind?
That's okay.
Hey, I was ready to do it last week.
We have a
so-
motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Let me think about it for a minute. Yes, 4-0.
Sorry for taking that from you, Drew.
That's okay. You snooze, you lose.
With that, just we have discussed an awful lot tonight, which has to do and pertain with Port Orange's future. The future has to do with a lot of the people sitting in this room right now. I know we're talking about adding some. I can't wait to have that seat up there filled with us. I feel funny saying 4-0 after votes.
Yeah, 4-0 is weird.
It just doesn't roll off the tongue the same way, because the last thing I want to say is 2-2. So we have adopted a procedure. Just want to reiterate it one more time, that those that are interested in serving in the interim, and I'm mentioning this now because we talked about the special election, but if you're interested in serving in the interim, as an interim City Council District 1 delegate, you will contact the city clerk's office with your application and your resume, and we will be making that decision. Would we say December 30th at noon is the cutoff, and then we will be making that decision after interviewing on the evening of January 5th. Matt, did I get everything?
Nailed it.
Okay.
Mayor? Sorry.
Alan, did you have something to add?
Just two quick things.
Yeah.
One, I would say, my parting request would be, I know you want Jamie to keep it in the middle of the road, but let her spread her wings just a little bit, and I think you'll be insanely surprised at what she can do. And the second thing is,
I love
another parting gift, just for tomorrow. I'm going to be out of the office tomorrow. It's my wife's birthday, and Susan Laval is going to be the acting city manager. You're welcome. I'll be available by phone, but just in case there's an emergency and something burns down, she's going to be here.
I don't know, I'd like you to.
Wish Jody a happy birthday.
Happy
for us.
birthday to your wife.
With that, I'm going to just say Merry Christmas, everybody. Remember the reason for the season, and we will see you all in the new year. Thank you very much.